Oh, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Popeye the Sailor Man. Now I am what I am, and that's all what I am. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man.
Okay, so it is July 16th, 2020. My good buddy Luke Perkins and I are here talking to Steve Stanchfield, owner and operator of Thunderbean Animation. And say hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you?
We are great. It is a wonderful evening. It's going to rain tomorrow, so hopefully we can do this before the tide comes in.
Yeah, otherwise all the film will be underwater again.
Oh, yeah, we can't have that. Anyway, Luke, would you like to ask the first question?
Okay. So, Steve, before we get into the Popeye shindig, can you tell us what you do professionally?
Professionally, I teach, actually. I teach at an art college, and I teach animation, and I teach animation history. That's sort of my official quote-unquote job. And the Thunderbean stuff has always been a little side venture. Oddly enough, I think that people know me more for Thunderbean than my real job.
Yeah, kind of like how more people know Dave Proxima for his Disney animation than his job nowadays, which is teaching students.
Yeah, all of us old guys are teaching, I think. I've been teaching for 20 years, believe it or not, since I was 32. So that makes me 52 right now.
Wow, that's great.
Hey guys, it's Eli. Now, I know I already mentioned this in one of the earlier interviews, but again, there's this static effect that does kind of tamper the quality of these clips here and there, and especially this one. Now, again, I will fix this in the future, but hopefully what Steve is saying and the wonderful points he's talking about should still overshadow this annoying static effect as long as you guys are interested enough. So, again, this is on me. Don't worry, we'll fix it in the future, but I still appreciate you guys, at the very least, checking this stuff out. So, as the old saying goes, back to the show, and we will fix those problems later. Bye.
Now with that Popeye Blu-ray out, it seems to contain some of the theatrical, Fleischer, and famous studio cartoons, in addition to some miscellaneous television content. In addition to the total amount, what precise order are they in, and why was it decided for them to be placed in that way?
Why did I decide to put them that way?
Yeah.
I think they're just chronological, honestly. I'd done a Popeye set back in 2004. And when I started doing home video stuff, I was 19 years old. So I'd been collecting films, and I really liked the idea of making film prints of things. But at this point in history, that seemed impractical. People were all getting out of film and into video. So I'd done a Popeye set in 1991. We wanted to find some public domain Popeyes and put out good decent copies of them. And so really the 2004 set it's sort of a version of my 1991 set, and then the 2000, what year is it? The 2020 set is kind of a revision of the 2004 set. Is that right? Yeah, the 2004 set.
Wow.
So it kind of has a lot of the same sorts of things on it. There's more famous studio. Of course, the other set was all Fleischer. There's more famous studio on it. We picked the films on it mainly because we could find okay copies of them. And I really loved the idea of that LOC Sinbad being out there. I really wanted Sinbad to look at least closer to what it would have looked like theatrically. I didn't like what was done with the Warner's version of it. I mean, so the reason that they're in the order they are is really just chronological. I like the idea of this being a simple little set. I love the Popeye cartoons, and it's kind of an excuse to put a bunch of interviews on that set.
Yeah, I don't think there's really any limit, it seems, in terms of just how much bonus content that there is for the stuff related to Popeye, because I think they had some fun stuff on the Warner's DVDs from like the 2000s and 2010s. Like there's an interview of Jack Mercer by Michael Sporn.
Sometimes people stopped by to visit the studio. One day a woman came to the studio and she had a high voice that could be heard in our inking department because the petitions were open at the top. The talking stopped and I thought the visitor had come and gone. Then I started to imitate that voice until someone told me that it was Max Fleischer's wife and that she'd gone into Max's office. Well, needless to say, I spent the rest of the day in a hot sweat awaiting a pink slip.
That's sort of my fault. Because what happened is I'd ask Mike, that interview's from Funny World, and it's sort of Lenny Cole's fault too that's on there. Because what happened is we did this 2004 DVD set, and then a handful of years later, Jerry was a consultant at Warner Brother Home Video, and Jerry brought my disc with them, and he said all of the bonus stuff that's on this disc is what you guys should do. And then I got a call from Warner Brothers and from New Wave Entertainment, I think it was called, which is the company that was hired to do the bonus stuff. Really? And they flew me out there, and I helped them organize the stuff to use. And they had to get permission from Mike Sporn, because that exact recording is actually taped by Lenny from his record player on an old mono cassette tape, and then I used the cassette tape to do the transfer, and that's the one they used. Because it was a pretty clean copy of the record, and it was hard to find. The record was a little plastic floppy record included in Funny World magazine in 1978.
Oh, nice.
They had to get permission from some of those other folks too, but Mike Sporn was really, they got permission from him, and then that's why the Popular Science short is used, and I gave him the pencil test and the sing-along with Popeye and some of the other stuff. All the stills that are in the bonus features are stuff that we did, that we scanned.
Oh, that's great.
So Popeye's a little set, I like to think of it as a nice little extra tribute. And who knows, maybe it'll be a catalyst like the last one kind of was to get the Popeyes out,
Yeah, most likely.
How long did this Blu-ray take to put together? Especially when it's been out over 10 years since those original DVDs from Warner Brothers, and it's being out around the same time as those new Warner Archive Blu-rays.
I've been working on the Popeye set a couple of years. The catalyst for it was LOC being donated the 35 nitrate. I'd wanted to just put that out in some way. And so the Popeye set was going to be one of my quote-unquote special sets, a set just for a handful of collectors. But it started to turn out pretty well, and moreover, I was able to get additional material, including the Popular Science short. Licensing the Popular Science short for it was about half the budget of the set.
Nice.
It was expensive, so I'm glad to have it out around the same time as the other sets, sort of. But it's also hard to say when Warner's will pick up the ball again and start to do the 50s ones. There's no immediate plans in the pipeline to do that.
Right, I can imagine. They have so much other stuff they're doing right now in terms of their archives, like maybe. Yeah, they're currently doing like the Tex Avery stuff.
I wish I could talk more about that stuff. I know stuff, but I wish I could talk more about it. Jerry being a friend of mine and Jerry helping work on that stuff, I know kind of what's happening, and there's just cool things happening.
Right. Oh, man. The stuff that people are getting nowadays, I honestly wish we had gotten when I was younger, but at least stuff's being done now.
I'm so glad that things are being pulled from negatives and that things are being scanned so beautifully now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Has it been any easier or harder to put them together in light of a recent pandemic that's still going on?
Oh, it's been a disaster.
Oh.
It's been terrible. It absolutely screwed everything up.
Oh.
More than you could even imagine. All the archives are closed. Trying to even get film scanned has become impossible. I had to drive to Pennsylvania to do the last films for the Popeye set.
Wow.
After having them for several months and not being able to do anything. I dropped films off, to one place out here that said that they could get their telecine going, and they recently moved and the telecine broke in the process.
Ooh.
So I can't scan film here in Michigan right now, and worse, I'm near the border of Canada, so I've been going to Toronto to scan on a really beautiful laser graphics machine.
Wow.
And I can't go to Canada. So it's been, I have a whole bunch of stuff here that I can't do anything with at the moment. But the Popeye set, I ended up paying about $600 for about $200 worth of work so that I could get a rush job done while I waited outside. And so I was waiting outside of the studio. Literally, I was in a little town near Pittsburgh, and I was picking weeds out between the sidewalk while I was waiting, because it waited like about 6 hours to transfer 20 minutes of film.
Right.
So it was really hard. you can curtail that answer to it was really hard. But,
yeah.
But I'm happy that I was able to get decent scans.
Yeah.
That batch of stuff had the print of Alabama in it. It had the commercials. It had the various Popeyes commercial for Start was in there, and one for Soaky Toys.
You know, honestly, given just how like insane that must have been, like, it's still amazing that you were able to deliver quality content on that disc, and especially in such a short amount of time.
We're always trying to, I mean, working with public domain material is harder because you have to try to find an okay print.
Yeah.
They're neat, but they're on really big spools, and the spools are wound really tight on one end. So who knows what we're going to encounter there? I'm a little scared, but we've got a whole series of them set up to scan.
Wow. We'll be looking forward to them whenever they're out. So, you already kind of mentioned LOC, the Library of Congress, and you're very well known for restoring old film prints of cartoons, especially those that have been kept by a lot of professionals around the world. So, what exactly do you do on a shoestring budget compared to the mainstream?
We're always trying to find stuff that really isn't around, or that is around and there just aren't good copies of. I really like the idea of being able to have the films be represented as well as they could be, because there's so many things that are sort of orphaned or abandoned. Trying to champion like the Rainbow Parade cartoons is just important to me, because if somebody could just get it right and we could get the best material that exists out, then at least now we can judge them for what they are and people can enjoy them for what they are. So I think we do okay on our little tiny budgets. And Thunderbean, as a little side venture in my life, has sometimes become overwhelming and taken over my life. But I also like the idea that we've been able to find a lot of things that otherwise haven't been around.
Yeah, I've noticed that you've taken a lot of the Novel Tunes cartoons by famous studios and have given them amazing restorations. Like, I've never seen a better print of that Raggedy Ann cartoon, The Enchanted Square.
Yeah, and that's actually two different prints. But there were the safety reissues of those films. They must have made at least enough prints that they've ended up in a handful of collectors' laps still.
Oh, yeah.
Someone scanned a really good copy of Song of the South, like a really nice 35mm Technicolor print. So that's out there somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful print. It's a beautiful print.
That print was in really good shape. It had good color. It wasn't vinegaring syndrome. I might know where that print is.
Nice.
Yeah, like about the Novel Tunes things, though, like because of those restorations, those are the ones that actually make me give some of the Novel Tunes a chance again. Some of them are really good.
Yeah.
This is what's funny is that those red NTA prints are sort of similar to the really bad prints of the Puppetoons. I've been working with Arnold Leibowitz on restoring some of the Puppetoons, and they look amazing. And if there's just good copies out, at least we can say, okay, cool, this is what it looked like.
Oh, nice.
There's so many bad red NTA prints.
Oh,
That's what I grew up with, was bad copies of all these things.
Yeah, I think.
So I had no idea what Enchanted Square looked like, and when I saw a 35 Technicolor print, I just couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, like the print, because actually some people were introduced to classic cartoons in multiple ways, like, television or a movie theater. I was introduced to the likes of Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and Porky Pig on public domain VHS tapes, and let me tell you, those cartoons on DVD that are fully restored, they really do make a world of difference compared to those really bad and frankly ugly prints of cartoons that are like amazing.
And it's funny because I mean, if you think about the history of film, you'd hope that these things would always be, at least in as close to first generation possible, that they'd be in the hands of someone that cared about them and could release them. And even Warner Brothers didn't care that much.
This was honestly
necessary for a long time.
This was the case of live action studios even. Like, a lot of prints of movies, like even behind the scenes test footage would be destroyed just so that they could have shelf room.
Yeah. And I don't mind the idea of us being a little bit foolish and putting out things that are never going to make $1 million. And I think that's sort of the difference, is that I'm hoping that someday be able to get the Scrappy cartoons out, or the Columbia Rhapsodies, or a lot of the more Terry Tunes. Gosh, all the Gene Deitch Terry Tunes really should be on video. They should be available, and they're just not.
So Luke and I, we're big fans of classic cartoons, and so we did admittedly grow up on really bad prints of these cartoons in terms of like public domain VHSs and piss poor broadcast tapes on television that got put on YouTube or the Daily Motion or something. So, having seen a lot of these restored versions, as much as we do love them, we can also notice when these prints can get blown out of proportion in terms of like image quality, color correction, and even remastered sound. So, how do you make sure to not go too far in any department?
This is what's funny, is if we look at the Disney model of what has happened, part of the mandate at Disney was to try to make these films seem as if they're new. I mean, we're sometimes talking about 80, 90-year-old technology. So it isn't as if we were fooling people into thinking they were just made yesterday.
Right.
Those original qualities of the film were not only part of the history of the film, but they also give it certain qualities that the filmmakers were aware of. Knowing the limitations of the medium that you're in has you make very specific choices. Even the color choices that are used in Technicolor were done after a whole series of tests, so they knew how color would look in the final prints, or at least what it sort of looked like in final prints.
Right.
Technicolor prints are notorious for being slightly off one color or another all the time, the color timing, especially in later prints. So in trying to work on these things, if you're coming from the original camera negative, especially with color material, it's really hard to get it to look like it did in the original release. And in fact, the harder thing becomes trying to figure out whether or not you're being accurate to the film coming from the original negative.
Right.
Because if you have 3-strip Technicolor, you're certainly representing the primary colors. There's all of these factors that make a print always a little bit different from what the camera negative looks like. I think the hard thing with Warner Brothers is that at times they think they nailed it. They got it right, and they didn't go too far. They reproduced what was there. Other times, maybe the lure of being able to just crank that color just a little bit hotter or have the picture look a little bit smoother got in the way.
Right. There does come a point where you need to sort of take away from these details and remember that you're focusing on characters, not necessarily environments.
From our standpoint, I would like this stuff to look like just about the best print that you could see of this film. As if you were watching a really good copy, but I don't want it to appear digital at all.
No.
I want it to still maintain the feeling that you're watching a piece of film, because they are a piece of film.
Yeah, and in many retrospects, the restored prints of cartoons on Disney Plus or HBO Max, I'm not criticizing them in any like really harsh way by any means. Like, a lot of them I think do look really good in their own right, but I think the key difference between one restored print over another, and often you can tell noticeable differences, is when something feels a little more cold, in a sense.
Yeah, it gets flat. This is the thing, this is something I've been talking with Arnie Leibowitz about a lot. Is he's doing Paramount's Puppetoons from the camera negs, and they look great. As soon as we've been done with, and we've helped with a lot of restoration on that set. But as soon as they're done, he's wanted to remove all grain from them, and I kind of like the grain. Now, in the final, his will be somewhat grain removed, but I'm still doing it carefully.
Right.
With my stuff, I wouldn't do it. Like if I was putting out the set, I'd leave everything intact. So I'm trying to do grain removal light on everything, and the great irony of it is that the Paramount material is so nice that it almost doesn't matter if you remove the grain. It's barely there anyway. It's
right.
With working on cartoons, if you're working from a print, we're doing this Rainbow Parade set, and everything's from a print. There's no camera material, but some things are 35, old Cinecolor 35. On by the way, just as a little FYI, even on the Technicolor Rainbow Parades, there's no complete camera negatives.
Really?
It's almost as if somebody would remove one of the three negatives just to mess us up. Sometimes we have two of the three colors. Sometimes we have one of the three colors. And so it's useless to have a magenta camera negative from Molly Moo and the Indians and none of the other colors.
Right, unless you just leave it off to the side or something.
Well, yeah. Instead, they have Technicolor prints on all of those things, and they have nearly mint Technicolor prints that have been used as masters for many years. So they aren't run projected prints. They were used specifically to make a print down, which is good. The Goose That Laid the Golden Egg, by the way, which is one that I really love, one of the Felix ones, looks so amazing in 35 IB. I wonder what the camera negative would look like. I'm sure it would look even a little bit better.
Right. Nice.
And
You want
some of them are starting to...
There's been this film historian named Eric Palm who has been actually finding original prints of actual original Disney cartoons, where in the Walt Disney Treasure sets, some of the cartoons are actually from re-releases. He finds originals, and some of them, like Rugged Bear. In the re-release of Rugged Bear, the color is different from the original print.
Oh yeah, like that's common actually, and part of it too is that Technicolor was a different organization after the mid-50s. Well, funny enough, Disney kept shooting things progressively, but then they were using Eastman color to make separations. And once Technicolor did that, they started to get sloppier. And I think too that they stopped spending as much on quality control, as Eastman came into the market, because now Technicolor was a more expensive process, and so it made sense to try to make the prints faster.
Wow.
Rugged Bear also had original titles too.
Yeah,
Oh,
the stuff is out there. The really sad thing is that even into the 90s, even when the Disney Channel was around, Disney Channel was showing prints of some of the Mickeys with original title sequences that the Disney studio now doesn't have, because they saved all the nitrate camera neg stuff and they threw out a lot of vault prints because they thought, oh, we've got this already.
But on the bright side, other people have been finding them and preserving them, even way more than Disney have.
Oh, absolutely.
Some of them for sure.
I tend to trust the average little boy or girl who loves finding these treasure troves on their own than a bunch of people in suits.
Sometimes you get lucky and the people in the suits actually have their heart in it.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes the companies are big and the companies have to use their internal restoration people, and the internal production people at some of the studios don't have the same appreciation for making sure that everything is right. And what I've liked about Thunderbean is that I've been able to keep the company really tiny and have been able to make the choices.
It's kind of unfortunate that you are stuck with the limitations that you have, but in many ways that actually kind of adds into the charm of your stuff.
Oh, thanks. I mean, they're little tiny releases. I feel like the Willy Whopper set's maybe the first thing that we got completely right. But I really love that set, and it was fun doing the Cubby Bears because there's another one of those obscure characters that nobody else would have done that with. The thing about loving this stuff is that it's nice. It's really nice to be able to get people in a big auditorium and to be able to watch things. And
Yeah.
we do a cartoon show here every year where we show old 35mm prints.
Oh,
We've been able to borrow stuff from everybody, and sometimes I'll buy things just to be able to show that one time there, and then we'll scan them.
yeah.
I'm super looking forward to all the iWork stuff being done, because then it'll be like, okay, that chapter's done.
Yeah.
It's been a big part of my life for the last 5 years, and I'll be glad that they're done and we've done the best we could, and who knows how long it would be before anybody else ever does anything else with them. Who knows if anybody ever will.
Right.
So we may as well try to get as good of a copy out as we could and make sure that whatever title cards exist are there. Every one of these projects is like this, where you're just finding stuff that otherwise doesn't exist.
Wow.
And if there's anything that I'm doing, hopefully that's right, it's that I'm laying the groundwork for other people to try to do the same thing. Because there will be stuff, like when I'm dead, there'll be stuff that still is forgotten. And
Right.
who even knows how we'll archive this period?
Right.
There's so many films being made, and they're being made by so many places. The internet is a big library tossed on its side, and things go in and out and back and forth, and you don't even know if some things are going to be there the next time you look.
Yeah, like, we're not sure what the future holds, but as long as we still hold on to the stuff that we care about, there should not be as much trouble. Hopefully not, knock on wood and all, but...
Keep the faith and keep collecting stuff.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to make sure it's here.
Anyway, with that said, thank you so much, Steve. This was an absolute blast. We'll let you go about your evening, and good luck on your future projects. We will absolutely love your output.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for chatting. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was great, Steve. You were, so far, you were one of the best people we've ever talked to so far. You were great. We had fun talking to you.
Oh, thanks so much. It was super fun to talk.
Yeah, maybe we'll chat again some other day, but until next time, take care.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
See ya. Bye.
All right.